and I come, as always, bearing some of the most profitable conversations for your business and the nation's economy at large. So, welcome, and welcome to you. It's a calm Monday, I can tell you for sure. Here in Lagos, there isn't traffic at all. This is like a dream Monday. So, yeah, it's something we're going to hold dearly to our hearts because tomorrow comes and the traffic reappears. But never mind, we've got some great conversation for you on the program today. But I really hope you're having a great time wherever you are. You're sharing the love in the season with people around you. Well, what do we have for you on the show today? I'll tell you in a moment. It's just one word, really. It is one word that is vital to you and I. We can't do without that one word. What is that word? Well, it is infrastructure. Oh, yes, that word is infrastructure, the backbone of productivity. And that is what we're getting right into on the show today. Infrastructure, the backbone of productivity. As I said earlier on, it's something that concerns you and I. We can't do without infrastructure on a daily. It's either you're applying the road or you're going to the hospital or you're using power or it's just some sort of infrastructure that everyone has to use on a daily basis. So we're talking about that today because it is a backbone of productivity. The success of your business or otherwise, the success, the growth of the nation's economy rests on infrastructure. Okay. So, what is infrastructure all about? Why are we having this conversation? How can we get better infrastructure as a nation so our businesses, our economy can do better? All of that you will hear on the show today. As always, we have some of the most experienced financial experts in Nigeria on the continent joining us. So, together they have decades and decades of experience, cutting edge experience. So, if you want the right information when it comes to productivity vis a vis infrastructure, this is where to be. By the way, you can be a part of the show if you don't have a radio set around you. But if you do, absolutely tune into Radio Nigeria, wherever you are, just as you are tuned in right now. And make sure to tell someone to tell someone to tell someone that there is something big happening on Easter Monday on Radio Nigeria. The beauty of Radio Nigeria is that it's the largest radio network around. So wherever you are, whatever state you're resident in right now, you can listen. So tell them, tune in right away. But if they don't have radio coverage, perhaps they're in Ghana or in another continent, tell them, you know what? Just head over to smegrowth.ng. That's SMEGROWTH.ng. And once they get to that website, they not only get a chance to watch us and listen to us live online, guess what? They can also playback. All right. So all of our previous episodes are there for you to actually enjoy all the talk around innovation, human capital, exports. I mean, brilliant conversations we've had are right there for you. It's a treasure trove of great content just for you. So smegrowth.ng is a website to get us right on. But without taking too much time, let's get into the big conversation of the day: infrastructure, the backbone of productivity. As always, you can be a part of the show by calling us or sending us a message live. Oh, yes, we're big on your participation. And the golden numbers to call are 0700 7000 977. That's 0700 700 977. Or you can just use 0916 257 1214. Again, 0916 257 1214. If you're ready, I am. Let's get right into it. And it is my pleasure to welcome my extra special guests today because it's an extra special episode. We have joining us for another week Dr. Lydia Sule, who's the Assistant Director, Acting Head, Talent Management Division at the Central Bank of Nigeria. She joins us virtually on the program this special Easter Monday. So, Dr. Sule, good evening and welcome to the show. It's good to see you looking all radiant and beautiful.
Good evening, Coyote. Nice to be back here again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great to see you. There you go. You can see the glow on her face. Wait till we get into the conversation. We also have joining us virtually Mr. Shola Gabriel, who's the head strategic planning, Polaris Bank, PLC. Mr. Gabriel, it's good to have you on the show as well, and happy Easter Monday to you.
Yeah, Kayode, how are you? Hope you also enjoying your holiday. It's my pleasure being here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Well, we're trying our best, making the most of it, to ensure that Nigerians get the right information. All right, but that's not all. We have joining us. Well, I've come to refer to him as my guy now, my main G, Mr. Adetunji Mustafa, Divisional Head, Strategy, Innovation, and Business Transformation, Fidelity Bank PLC, is right here with us in our Lagos studio. Mr. Mustafa, how you day?
I'm good. I'm Kayode. Good evening, and thank you for having me once again.
Absolutely great to have you on, and you can tell that we're about to have a blast on the show. So let's dive right into it. Infrastructure, the backbone of productivity. As always, we don't want to take it for granted that everyone understands what infrastructure is, what it is all about. What is that term, infrastructure? What exactly does it mean? So I'm going to start with Dr. Sule. What does infrastructure mean? What is this infrastructure thing that we always talk about every day? Infrastructure. Dr. Sule, let's start with you.
All right, good evening, Kayode. Thank you again for this opportunity. Infrastructure, a very big word, but then a very, very important and significant aspect of our society and economy that helps us to build and grow and develop. So basically, in a nutshell, I will describe infrastructure as power or electricity that will help us to build or grow businesses and services of goods and products. And then also other things like roads, telecommunications, or digital, I was going to use the word infrastructure again, or digital gadgets or networks that help us to be able to communicate and also speak with each other. Basically, these are things that help us to be able to produce what we need to produce, whether it's goods or services, but then it's what is needed. Last week, we were talking about human capital, but this is what the human capital needs to be able to produce whatever products or services we have. Basically, we're looking at things like electricity, whether it's water or even roads, rail, transport system, and then communication systems as well. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sule, for breaking that down for us. And I love the point where you made, about infrastructure basically is what human capital needs to do the work that it needs to do to produce and to be productive. And that's why we call it the backbone of productivity. So that's what infrastructure is in a nutshell, really. It's just that simple. It's something we see every day. So next time you hear that big term infrastructure, you know what it is. We're talking roads, power, or electricity, or NEPA. It's funny that we still stick to NEPA, even though NEPA does not exist anymore, but everybody still says, oh, NEPA. Yeah, that's infrastructure, telecommunications and the rest. So thank you, Dr. Sule, for that opener. That way, we can dive right in now that we've gotten that out of the way. And, looking at data, ladies and gentlemen, we say that Nigeria's infrastructure deficit is something we all agree to, really. And it requires, according to data, billions of dollars annually to address. And really, that far exceeds what we're doing right now. So we have a deficit in infrastructure, deficit in spending. But in order to link that with the reality on ground, and I'll go to our guest virtually, Shola Gabriel. Let's help us get a sense of how this gap impacts productivity of Nigerian businesses, because there's a tendency to say it and it's in the air. But let's, break it down to brass tacks. How does this really impact the productivity of businesses, particularly the nano, small, medium enterprises? So I'll need you to unmute, Shola Gabriel. Kindly unmute so we can hear you from the top again. Thank you.
Sorry, apologies. I didn't know I was muted. So I was saying, like, infrastructures are, like was said, those physical, social assets that support productivity. So if that is what they do, then their absent means productivity suffers. The cost of the infrastructure gap is I'm not sure we can do justice to it in terms of stating the actual impact is enormous. From low output that the economy is suffering from, outputs below par output for the past 10 years or thereabouts, to insecurity, down to even the value of the naira. It tells on the value of the naira at the end of the day. So the impact of the economic impact of infrastructure is very adverse, and is something we need to address if as a nation we're going to fulfill our potential. Without that, it's going to be. Let me throw some numbers into this. Do you know that, Kayode, in the last one of the fastest growing economy, the fastest growing economy has been the Chinese economy. It's been returning almost at least from around 2019, 2009 to it returned double-digit growth for almost 15 years. So I saw a number that was staggering. In the last 3 years, do you know that China consumes more cement than the whole of Europe and America consume in the last 3 years? China consumed more cement than the whole of Europe and America did in the last 10 years. Cement is a major input for infrastructural development. So what am I saying? The fastest growing economy, the economy that has lifted the most number of people out of poverty in the history of mankind, is consuming cement more than any other economy in the world. That tells you, and cement is a major input for infrastructure development. So that just gives you a sense of the importance of fixing the infrastructure gap if this economy is going to fulfill its potential. So thank you.
Now that you put it that way, it really hits home. Understanding that infrastructure is tied to not just productivity, but you said something quite important, taking people out of poverty. China has been able to do that over the past 1 decade plus. And that's because it's been consuming cement, as you said, obviously, for infrastructure development. So for the roads, yes, roads are built with cement, for schools, hospitals, even for the tracks, right? You need that cement. So brilliant point there. So we begin to get a better picture of what we're missing out on as a nation with some of the infrastructure deficit. I'm going to come to Adetunji now, and this is a question I would like to take around. Perhaps you might want to speak some of the points about what infrastructure is, what it has cost us as a nation when it comes to infrastructure deficit. But for you, now that we understand what infrastructure is, power, roads, and all of that, which would you say should be prioritized immediately? Because there's usually that dilemma. Some people say, this government, just focus on electricity. That's all we want you to do. For the 4 years, do electricity and leave. But for you, when we're talking now directly, immediate economic gains, productivity, what infrastructure sectors, such as power and the rest, should be prioritized for you?
Okay, so let me just speak to that. The infrastructure gap in Nigeria is about $100 billion per year, right? Now, let's look at the budget for 2025. The total budget was 54.9 trillion. That's about 56 trillion. So if we assume an exchange rate of 1,500 to a dollar, it means the total budget is just under $37 billion.
Oh.
And then the CAPEX budget is $18.3 billion. Yeah, and the infrastructure gap.
That's capital expenditure for
yes,
people who don't need
it. That's the capital expenditure budget. And then the infrastructure gap is $100 billion. That tells us that
it's a far cry.
Yes, that must be priorities, And for me, there must be priorities in government spending, there must be priorities in focus. And for me, the most important area right now, in fact, I think the government should declare a state of emergency on our electricity. And the reason is that electricity drives other sector.
Yeah.
In terms of if you get electricity right, you get manufacturing right, you get almost every sector. The multiplier effect is great. If you get electricity right, let's look at the informal sector.
Yeah.
The output for the barber, in terms of first output, will be able to barb more hair. That's number one. Then number two, in terms of profitability, if the electricity is constant, it doesn't have to worry about generator and all. So it will make more money. Look at the organizer on the street. we will be able to do more business. So electricity, in terms of the informal sector, it will drive the informal sector. Then in terms of the, if you look at the formal sector, it has a direct effect on almost all the sectors. And it's also a powerful pull for foreign investors. If foreign direct investment, if electricity, investors are more comfortable investing in nations when at least the infrastructure rating is reasonable.
Yeah.
So for me, electricity is most important. Thank you.
Those in support say aye. Let's find out from others, because I'm just going to throw the same question to Dr. Sule. Same thing, really. What infrastructure sector for you should be prioritized if you want to drive immediate economic gains, productivity, lift people out of poverty? There are other options besides power. Okay, I know there's roads, there's education, health, and the rest. But what will it be for you, Dr. Sule?
Thank you again, Kayode. So I'll just throw in the same line with Mustafa. I would also agree that electricity is actually one of the most important. I would say that. I was listening to a Ghanaian podcast about a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember the name of the host of that podcast. And one of the things he actually said was that Ghana is experiencing high immigration or migrants moving into Ghana from other African countries. And definitely Nigeria was top on the list. He talked about 4 countries. But interestingly, what I found very interesting was they did a mini research just to find out why people were moving to Ghana. And the top thing on that list was people moving to Ghana, or Nigerians moving to Ghana because of stable, better electricity, let me put it that way. And because many of the young people that were moving have small businesses that they were taking to Ghana, and they felt that their businesses would do better and thrive better there. Sadly, that was what I heard. But then it was really an eye-opener for me as well, because when you look at small businesses, Mustafa has just talked about a barber. It's a very small business or micro business, but it amplifies when you look at every other sector. I don't think there's any sector, whether it's production, manufacturing, or service, that does not need electricity. And not just having electricity, because somehow in Nigeria, we're very resilient. We come up with generators, we have solar systems now, but the cost of that electricity has a very huge impact on businesses. And looking at small businesses, that is a huge cost. So if we're looking at just the cost of it, that's one. But then also, what are the advantages that stable electricity brings? People are able to plan, people are able to project, people are even able to do other things that they are not able to do right now because there's no stable electricity. So it's really like a bone in the neck when that is not settled. And we're looking at urban businesses. That's a huge thing. For rural businesses, probably, or the rural area rather, would also look at things like road, because in the rural area, maybe what they have is basically agricultural produce that needs to be moved to where the consumers are or where it can be sold. And without good roads, at least roads, not any other form of transport now, or transportation rather, then that will serve as well for them. So when we're talking about this, I'm looking at electricity more for urban micro and small businesses, but then roads again for those in the rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So should try to balance it, but top on that list, just like Adetunji, electricity. I love that you mentioned others. And just to push this home further, and this is not to preempt what Shola has to say, you hear manufacturers telling you that about almost 50% of their costs is spent on electricity, just electricity alone, generating it themselves, right? It's not the one they get from the grid. So you see that a large chunk of it is going to electricity. Recently, it was said that Nigerians spend trillions, like a huge chunk of the national budget, just generating their own electricity on their own, outside of the power grid. So, Shola, I'm coming to you now. Again, I don't want to preempt you, but if there's that sector when it comes to infrastructure that you think should be prioritized to drive immediate economic gains, what would it be?
So Kayode, I think the high still has it. So clearly it's still power. And the strength of any economy is never in the multinationals. It's always in the cottage industries. And the key input for any sector is power. If we don't get power right, it's going to be difficult to kickstart this economy and make it competitive. For example, this is an economy that is largely oil dependent, and there's a need to diversify export. We can't get that diversification. It's not job for the multinationals. It's likely job for the cottage industries. And if those industries don't have the power input required to power their operations and their productivity, it's going to be a challenge. So I would say power, and power. If I'm to make a list of 3 infrastructure in order of importance, it will be power number 1, power number 2, and power number 3. 1, it will boost exports, we boost outputs, and of course, it will impact positively on the value of the Naira as well.
So there you go. The eyes have it. It looks like there's some unanimity when it comes to the most immediate sector that should be prioritized. That's not to take away from other sectors, but just to get you to feel the pulse of Nigerians. And in case you're just joining us right here on the show, this is the Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment Radio Show, proudly brought to you by the Bankers Committee. Today we're talking infrastructure, and for some reason we've talked about power, because that is at the heart of the headache that the average Nigerian goes through on a daily. You almost put it in your prayer point. You pray about it. May there be power today. As you're watching TV or you are blending something, you're praying, please, may they not take power. So if you're listening to us and you want to call in, if you've got questions, contributions about infrastructure, which we'll still delve deeper into, you can pick up your phone right away and call us on 0700 7000 977. That's 0700 700 0977. Is there an area, a sector when it comes to infrastructure that you want government to prioritize as number 1? You can call us, let us know. Do you have a different opinion? Call us right away on 0916 257 1214. Again, 0916 257 1214. You want to talk to us about the state of infrastructure where you're at? Is there a pressing need, a burning need that you have? Be it power, road, whatever. Call us in right now. We're here to take your calls. But let's go deeper now. It looks like everyone agrees that electricity is number 1. So let's start with electricity, right? We're still going to talk about others, road and the rest. But unreliable power, which we all can relate with in Nigeria, has forced businesses to spend 40% of their operating costs on self-generated electricity. And that's compared to about 10% in other, what we can call peer economies. And I'm not going to mention names because I know our Ghanaian brothers and sisters are listening. So what can Nigeria learn from peer countries? Because I think we're in a global village, right? And I think it's best to learn best practices. So Adetunji, what can we learn on improving electricity access from peer economies? I'm not going to mention names.
Okay, I'll try not to mention names too. Okay, so Nigeria currently generates about 5,543 megawatts of electricity per day, but distributes only about 60 to 65%. So we need to invest in transmission and distribution, not just generation. That's the number 1 thing. We need to focus on transmission, focus on distribution. So even though what we generate is little, if we drive efficiency in transmission and distribution, it is still result in higher power, across the country. That's number 1. Then number 2, we need to invest in metering. This is 2025. Personally, I think any government agent or anybody at all that does estimated billing in 2025 should be arrested and thrown to prison without an option on fine, because we can't be doing estimated billings at this time.
You just look at an area and say, you take 50,000 per month.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So, I think there is a law. I'm not sure the National Assembly, there's some law against it. Maybe people can call in and I'll throw more light on.
Call us right away, by the way.
But we must invest in metering, have some efficiency around the pricing of electricity. I think that is also very important. Then we must look at alternative power sources. You have like the solar panels, like the wind turbine, and so on, renewable energy. And I'm surprised that there have not been a lot of investment. Maybe the government needs to come in. There has not been a lot of investment in solar power. Nigeria, we are a tropical nation, so we don't have.
We have sun in abundance.
Yes, we have sun in abundance. So maybe the government needs to come in, create an enabling environment, or make necessary law that will drive investment in that area. So there must be renewable energy, alternative sources of electricity, solar panels, and so on. And then we also need to encourage public-private partnership in driving infrastructure for that would support the electricity value chain. Then foreign direct investment in that area. If you can woo investors to come and invest in our electricity, it's also important. And but most importantly, the government must create an enabling environment that would allow people to come in and invest.
There you go. So that's in a nutshell for the electricity sector. We have a caller on the line. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Christopher.
Ah, Mr. Christopher.
I'm calling from Ijaniki.
Ah, great to have you on the show, Mr. Christopher. What do you have, a question or a contribution?
I'm very happy. This country, honestly speaking, people in Abuja, the senators, ministers, and the president, if they name people upon this life who can organize, group of people are putting the right of this country. How can we carry our country to go to the Ghana? The Ghana where we supply like give. Many companies, PJ, and also their service side. Now Nigeria are going down. I don't know how to keep it. We have to interest in this country. People supposed to keep up. And this topic is very, very important.
Right.
People support the people. It gives us what they do to support the people. Listen, I can't pass. And when the apartheid was in Europe, to the time when Nigeria people to let people go up. But that time the Minister of Power, people prison, back from that time. Last day, people don't go up. So they know what they do. Let's decode this thing. Let's come out of it.
All right, Mr. Christopher, thank you very much. This is essential thing we need to set up when it comes to governance in the power sector. And well, Nigeria supplies power to Benin Republic, and when you talk about the neighboring countries, Benin, Niger, Togo. I know it's been said that Nigeria supplies to Ghana, but that has since been debunked. So it's the countries closest to us: Benin, Niger, Togo. But the point is very vital, and he had to go all the way back to the military regime, saying, well, when then head of state took a drastic action, then things changed. Well, we're in democracy now, and it's expected that democracy should give people dividends of democracy, even in a much more better manner. But that's where we are right now. But you can be a part of the show as well. 0916-257-1214 or 0700 7000 977. We're talking infrastructure on the show today. We have to take a break. And when we return, hey, there's still road to talk about. There's still the financing bit of it. I mean, why are we where we are as a nation? And my guests are right here with us to do justice to that. So stay with us on the Financial Literacy Policy Department Radio Show. We'll be right back.
It makes sense. I didn't come here, please. Calm down. I go pay.
Please, I no fit pay o.
Chai,
Wetin go happen?
why everything just cost like this?
Na dollar o.
Dollar. How?
Baba, na true now. See your shoe, made in Italy. Your shirt made in Turkey. Even car wey you carry come, made in Japan.
How all these ones take affect dollar?
You know me say for the price of dollar to come down, get wetin we suppose dey do. We suppose dey export pass wetin we dey import. We suppose dey buy more made in Nigerian products. Make we dey support local businesses. And if we go carry dollar enter Nigeria or any other foreign currency, make we dey use international money transfer agents.
This my friend, he too get sense. You know what's going to happen? Give am the bill, make it pay. Country people, make we join hand, reduce the pressure on top our naira. This message now from Bankers Committee.
All right, you're welcome back. This is a financial literacy and public enlightenment radio show, proudly brought to you by the Bankers Committee. It's our Easter Monday special. So while you're dealing with that chicken, fish, or egg, whatever it is you're dealing with today, this is the right conversation to go with it. And you could be driving, or you could just be taking some fresh air after the hot afternoon. Well, this is the right place to be because we've got nothing but the most profitable discussions to help your business and the nation's economy at large. So whether you're a nano, very tiny business, or you're small, medium enterprise, this is where to be because this is where you get the right conversation to move your business, personal finance forward. Today we're talking infrastructure, right? How it affects your business. And we'll get to how you can navigate some of those challenges, how you can turn the challenges to opportunities. But let's get back to the conversation. We've talked about electricity a lot, and that's understandable. It's one of our pain points. But let's move on to another one, which is roads, right? That's another part of infrastructure that is very important, right? So I'm going to come to Dr. Sule now and get you to speak to the road bit of the infrastructure conversation, roads, transportation, because it said that poor road networks increases logistic costs in Nigeria by 30 to 40%, and it delays goods delivery, reduces market access, and all. So for those who sit back and say, wait, is this the same Nigeria that is blessed that we're going through all of this? Is there maybe an easy explanation as to why road infrastructure, like other infrastructure, still a challenge for a nation like Nigeria, Dr. Sule?
Well, looking at roads, I think I would say that's one of the most important infrastructure that we also need. Because if you're looking back, go back into history, you'll find out that cities or areas that had road networks had fantastic business experiences and also were able to thrive. You talk about the Silk Road somewhere in Asia all the way to Europe. You can see what happened along that route. So that gives you a snapshot of what roads can do. Now, coming back to our own country and looking at what we are experiencing currently, you'll find out that a lot of cities or areas that are connected by roads are able to transport goods and services, and they're able to do this in a more efficient manner. But then where we do not have good roads or roads at all, then we find out that a lot of things get destroyed or they don't get to the final need or the final users at the end of the day. So let me just take, for instance, if you look at a farmer who farms in a very rural location. Now, what he produces might be needed for food or raw materials to any industry. If he's not able to move it at the time it's needed or is required, or as fast as he needs to get it in good quality to the end user, then it gets there when it's not good enough. And what you discover is that he loses on the value of that product. And even those that need it to use it, they're not able to use it for the best quality of what needs to be produced, whether it's food or it's a raw material for industries. So if the roads, there might be roads, but if they're not even good, then it means it reduces the efficiency of having the quality of products that are required. Then if you look at finished goods and services that need to move from one location to the other, currently in Nigeria, I think the most infrastructure that we use is roads, because there are other ways of moving goods and services, but what we have predominantly is roads. And that's why when we talk about the price of petrol, it becomes a very significant issue for us as a nation. But that tells you how much road network or roads are used to move things and move people as well as goods and services. So it's really a difficult thing. And then talking about developing this aspect within the country, I think as a nation, we just need to have a strategy around it, a strategy that we're willing to walk through it, government in, government out, not every government coming with a different strategy. Because if we're not able to sustain a strategy, whether it's a 5-year strategy, 10-year strategy, or 20-year strategy, then it's going to be very difficult for us as a nation. Because we can't do it in piecemeals and then come today, oh, we just need a road from Jos to Abuja or from Abuja to Lagos. You know, we just have to have a strategy around it so that we are consistent. I think consistency is also something that we need in planning and implementation. Thank you very much.
So we have to be strategic, consistent. We have to approach this not in a piecemeal manner, because this is, as we say, the lifeblood. It is a backbone of productivity. So we have to attack it with that strategy and consistency that it deserves. I'm going to go to Shola now. And, so much points have been raised about electricity, roads, and the rest. And one of the callers even suggesting drastic measures. But at the heart of this is usually finance, right? And we've talked about how much our budget is, for example, how much we need to sort infrastructure yearly. It's a far cry. Our capital expenditure is even much smaller than what we need. For the infrastructure that we deserve, or at least desire. So, Shola, we've talked about how much we have budgeted. We know it's a far cry, but are there innovative ways? Are there some sort of maybe more responsible ways as well? Because some will say that it's sometimes a responsible, but what models can we basically adopt to fund projects that enhance business productivity, infrastructure projects, that is?
So thank you, Kaide. So if you look at some of the numbers that Tunji gave us the last time, in terms of infrastructure gap, what the budget is and what is required in terms of funding, you see that is a distance. So if we are going to get serious and close this gap, then definitely it's not a job for government alone. So the private sectors must get involved. And some of the areas where I am quite optimistic about some of the things the current government is doing is that I see a rapid movement towards a market-led economy that opens up the economic space, a model that opens up the economic space for private sector to come in. We're seeing liberalization in power, which is a positive. A lot of PPP initiatives around road, which is another positive. I would like to see more of that. Things that the private sector is they are just there to take opportunities. Once the opportunity is there and the environment enables it, you don't need to go after the private sector. Once it allows for money to be made, and the private sector will come in. So for me, those policy changes are even more important. If government can keep at that and make sure that they see that to the end, I believe it will naturally galvanize private capital, which we need very badly if we are going to liberate the potentials of this economy. Road, important. Lot of PPP initiative, important. But it must be that when you bring private capital, he's going to hold every penny counts. There is no wastage. So if I know that I'm bringing money into Nigeria to do any project, is it road, is it power? If there's litigation, the institutions are there to protect me. I will bring the funds in. And you will see a rapid influx of FDIs to make things happen around infrastructure. So that is why even those building strong institutions, building the financial networks that can sustain this and enable what government is trying to achieve. I even see those foundational things as more critical. Yes, the private sector must come in, definitely.
Yeah.
But the system that is going to keep the private sector in beyond the life of an administration is even more critical. So that I know if I'm coming in, it's not just because this government disposition is pro-business. Don't know when the next, no, it has to be government in, government out, something that is sustained. And that will impact very positively on infrastructure development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashola. Ties back to the point Dr. Slay was also making about strategy, consistency. We need to ensure that it's well structured. I love that vital point, such that it's sustainable. It outlives a government or an administration. It just keeps going on and on. Public-private partnership, way to go. By the way, if you want to be a part of the show, as I said earlier on, if you've got infrastructure deficit in your area that you want to speak to, issues like this, we need to give you a voice. It's 0916-257-1214. That's the number to call us on, 0916-257-1214, or 0700-7000-977. That's 0700-700-0977. Let's quickly take this call. Good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I want to say this.
Where are you calling from, Mr. Iguatu?
I call from Johnny.
It sounds like Mr. Christopher.
Yes, I'm Christopher.
Okay, just be quick so we can take all the calls. Go ahead.
I want to talk about if you didn't know what about anything to maintain people work. Remember when you go for that after, you know for any work.
Right.
You know if you like passing the way that kind of road is okay. You come on all together. Now, if we did good employment, it will last.
All right.
Okay.
So road and maintenance go hand in hand. Exactly. Infrastructure maintenance absolutely go hand in hand. Thank you, Mr. Iguatu Christopher, for that. Yet again, looks like he's like the fastest fingers when it comes to making a call. But absolutely, you can also be a part of the show, but like Mr. Iguatu Christopher. Let's have your thoughts or questions on infrastructure. So there's a point I want us to touch on as we begin to coast home, and that's the fact that sometimes infrastructure is also challenged because of the pressure in it, particularly in big cities. Take Lagos, for example. The amount of population in Lagos. I recall recently the Lagos State Deputy Governor was making a joke with the Swedish princess that the population of Lagos alone state is more than the population of Sweden, the country as a whole. So you can imagine the kind of pressure that roads, even power, and other infrastructure would have. And it takes me to the point of rural infrastructure as well. So you have a lot of people migrating from our rural to urban areas because sometimes they lack infrastructure. So they don't have roads, schools, hospitals, just a semblance of basic life. So I'm going to come to you on this one. How do we ensure we're not leaving the rural areas behind? Because that's partly why our urban areas are overpopulated. So let's talk infrastructure for rural areas.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very, very interesting question. A few weeks ago, I visited my hometown. I'm not going to tell you where it is. And I discovered that nothing has changed in 10 years. Nothing. Everything was the same. And you know the impact, of course, all the young people have migrated to Lagos and other urban centers.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just the old people, you know, that you see in the villages. And even the migration to Lagos, sometimes they don't have any economic activity they are doing.
They just come to Lagos.
They just come to Lagos with no hope. You know, so I think it's important. Rural development must be a deliberate strategy at all levels of government, not only the state government, at all levels of government. Access to power and water, I mean, it's a must. And if there is power and there is water, it would enable agribusiness, it would enable small businesses, it would increase productivity, it will reduce rural poverty. That's one. And then education and vocational training, you know, must also be available. That it would improve the skill sets, empower youth, enhance employment opportunities, and then it will reduce urban migration and foster rural growth. That is important. And then healthcare infrastructure We must have at least primary healthcare facilities at all the rural areas, so that if people have if there are emergencies, there will be no need to start looking for a vehicle to bring you down to Lagos or Shagamu, as the case might be. And then the transport network is also important, good transport network, so that if I'm a farmer in the rural area, when I harvest my produce, I can bring them to Lagos, sell, and return to my base.
Yeah.
Then, social safety, good digital infrastructure, if all those things are available, people are happy where they are, and then there is no need for rural, urban migration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adetunji. I'm glad you spoke to that point. There's still a lot more to cover in the few minutes that we have left. I'll see if we can take one or two messages and calls. 0700 7977 or 0916 257 1214. I'm going to come to Dr. Sule now and maybe piggyback off the point that our caller made earlier on, Mr. Christopher, about maintenance, sustainability. Since you also talked about having a strategy, let's speak to having a strategy around sustainability. Maintenance of infrastructure is another deal breaker. So what strategies can we implement to ensure that even the ones that we have, that we're hoping to increase, at least we take care of it, we maintain it effectively to support sustained productivity for our businesses?
Yeah, so when it comes to infrastructure, so let's take road, for instance. One of the things I know about roads, especially tarred roads, is that they also have a lifespan. They have a period of time that they're expected to be very good and functional for. And if we just take note of that and also include that in our strategy, that as we're opening up new roads for the old roads or the already established roads, we need to maintain them at so period of time, or every year we maintain a certain kilometer of this roads, so that it's not something that we leave for a period of time and then it becomes too cost intensive to do it, or we do it in bite sizes over a period of time. So we also have to have a strategy around maintenance. And that's a culture that we need to have as a nation. We need to imbibe as people, even as business owners. I see people tell you they have a maintenance cost for every year. So there are some things that need to be maintained yearly, some are bi-yearly or biannual, or over a period of time, every 2, 3, or 4 years. It's just to also understand that and also have it in our plan, so that the roads don't have to have, not potholes now, I don't know what kind of holes they have before, we start shouting and asking, oh, but something needs to be done, or too many lives are lost in the course of having this bad infrastructure. So looking at the other things that we, like power, I'm sure what we have for electricity today, maybe 30, 40 years ago was adequate. But coming down the line, you see now it's inadequate because what has happened? Population has grown, cities have grown, we have expanded in terms of landmass or where we occupy. So it tells you naturally that there should be growth. And these are things we need to plan for. I know somewhere I've read that Nigeria's population by 2050 is going to be like 400 million. Sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? If you just think about it in terms of education, healthcare, all the things that we need as people, then you know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Already we're in deficit. It means that we don't have a deliberate and very intentional plan on how to meet what we need in the near future. Then our dear need will be deeper or more there as we move further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sule, for that reminder. Yes, indeed. The projections say that by 2050, our dear green, white, green Nigeria will have a population of 400 million plus. That will mean that we'll be the third most populous country in the world after India and China. Yes, our same Nigeria. So it needs a lot of thinking, strategy, long-term planning, a lot of action to ensure that we're not caught napping. And that's why we have this show to give us those reminders, talk about things that really matter for the good of our nation. There's still 2 or 3 points I'd like to make. I want us to touch on before we go, ladies and gentlemen. Try to take one more call because of time. 0700 7977 or 0916 257 1214. Those are the numbers with which you can call us right away on the show. Let me go to Shola quickly now. We've talked about the challenges, and yes, we've talked about the solutions as well for government and stakeholders, especially in the private sector. But for small businesses who may be feeling powerless, apparently there may just be some opportunities for them, right? Because problems are simply opportunities for solutions. They've said that. So government will do the heavy lifting, but businesses can also find ways to solve problems in their little corners. And I'll give you an example. So there was a challenge of logistics, which is as a result of infrastructure, roads and stuff, cars getting stuck in traffic. And guess what? Lagos with dispatch riders just happened. Boom, boom. And now dispatch riders are saving us now. That's an innovation that came as a result of a challenge. So are there ways to look at challenge and do some light lifting for businesses, entrepreneurs? So they are solving problems and they are being productive at the same time. Chala.
So thank you, Kaide. The Chinese will say that the word for crisis or for problem is this word for opportunities. So when the rest of the world say problem, so what that means is that clearly these problems are just opportunities for businesses.
So we lost you earlier on, so maybe we can start from the scratch. The Chinese say that the same word for problem is opportunities. So from that point, because the network was trying to play fast on us, infrastructure yet again.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Network. But go ahead. You can make the point from the start.
Okay. So I'm saying that whenever there's problem, clearly there are just opportunities. There are opportunities veiled as challenges. For power, for just name it, as touching any type of infrastructure needs that is for businesses to make money. The challenge with infrastructure is because they are largely heavy liftings. But what will be important is that if we look at the model for which infrastructure will be delivered, we have to localize the model so that it identifies with the challenges of our environment. Let me give you an example. Now we are having band A, band B, band C, and for electricity. What that means is that the power business can now, there's economic pricing. People can now investors can begin to recoup their investment. But you can't do that in the rural areas, for example. You can't put the rural area in band A. I doubt if there's any model that could make that venture profitable in the rural. So that means we have to rethink what models will work in that area. That's present opportunity for businesses. A lot of renewables. I can bring rural areas. What kind of?
I have to cut it now because of a connection. And as much as we are enjoying that point you're making about opportunities for rural areas, and vital point, very important point. But we have just a few more minutes to go. In fact, about 2 minutes to go. And there's this point I want to make as action point as we wind down. Yes, we're going to talk about sector-specific infrastructure for agriculture, and people talk about roads for the rural areas, so that they're able to transport their produce. But as a matter of urgency, tomorrow is work day, right? After the public holiday. What would you say? A sentence now to speak to government stakeholders, what they must do tomorrow if we want to transform our lot when it comes to infrastructure. What would that be, Adetunji?
Okay, there are a few things that government must do as a matter of urgency. Number one, the ease of doing business. Nigeria is currently like 131 out of 190 something, So we must make doing business easier in Nigeria. That's number one. There must be a proper framework for people that are bringing their funds. That my money is safe. That I have access to FS anytime I want to leave. I'm able to live in my fund. I think those are important fundamentals that must be in place before we start anything. And then our CapEx to recurrent expenditure, the ratio of capital expenditure to recurrent expenditure in our budgeting is currently like 50-60. We must try and make it like 50%. That's number two. Then number three, public-private partnership is very important because the government can't do it all. We all agree that the government can't do it all. So we need to bring in people, that would do it. And then we must look at critical infrastructure projects. I'll give you an example. A few days ago, the government was trying to repair, I think it was the Independence Bridge.
In Lagos.
They closed that bridge, and Lagos was as a standstill.
Lockdown.
One bridge was closed, and Lagos, my colleagues left work at 7 p.m. in the evening and got home at 4 a.m. in the morning. It's just very strange. So we must, there is an urgency in providing critical infrastructure. We've been talking about Fort Mainland Bridge. There must be a blueprint for this thing. There must be an urgency around it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I saw Dr. Sule maybe smiling when she heard about traffic in Lagos, because there's nothing like that in Abuja. Well, as far as Abuja people are concerned, but we have to draw the curtains at this point. A very vital conversation we've had. We've talked about the challenges, but more importantly, we've talked about solutions, and opportunities. And I have to thank you so much, Adetunji Mustafa, Divisional Head, Strategy, Innovation, and Business Transformation, Fidelity Bank PLC. Thank you for your time. And Dr. Lydia Sule, Assistant Director, Acting Head, Talent Management Division, Central Bank of Nigeria. Great to have you. Don't worry, we'll come to Abuja to enjoy the traffic you don't have. Thank you for your time, madam. And of course, Ashola Gabriel, Head, Strategic Planning, Polaris Bank PLC. It's been a pleasure having you as well on the program. Well, we have to draw the curtains, but don't worry, next week we're back with Buy Local. What does that mean? We have to wait to find out. But on behalf of the production team, I have to say a big thank you to you. Enjoy the rest of your Easter Monday. My name is Kayode Okikulu, gentleman of the press. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. God bless.
It makes sense.
I come here, please, sorry.
Calm down. I'll go pay.
Please, I don't feel.
Child,
Why
why everything just costs like this?
Na dollar.
Dollar. How?
Baba, na true now. See your shoe, made in Italy. Your shirt made in Turkey. Even car where you carry come, made in Japan.
How this one think affect dollar?
You know me say for the price of dollar to come down, get what we suppose they do. We suppose they export past waiting with the import. We suppose they buy more made in Nigerian products. Make they support local businesses. And if we go carry dollar enter Nigeria or any other foreign currency, make they use international money transfer agents.
This is my friend, it's to get sense. You know what's going to happen? Give up the pay, make it pay. Country people, make we join hands, reduce the pressure on top our Naira. This message now from Bankers Committee.
Yes, a beat.
For the best adult contemporary music.
Stay glued to Metro 7.7 FM. It only gets better and better.